So, hi everyone, welcome to the channel. Welcome to Coffee with Craig. Today we're going to do an unusual one. We're going to do a live one with some of the patrons and some of the YouTube members who are coming in to cross-examine me, ask me some questions, share your thoughts about some of the things that are going on in the world at the moment. So, welcome to Coffee with Craig. So the world's in quite an interesting state of flux at the moment, isn't it, in the world? The world's we've got so much going on around the world in massive changes happening. We're seeing big changes happening in America soon with all the elections coming up. It looks like things can swing to left or right or Democrats or Republicans and so forth. And either choice that is made tend to be quite extremes. Same thing happening here in the UK. We've had quite extreme separations in our politics. Same thing happening in Europe, of course. We've got quite extreme fluxes happening in places like Germany and France, Sweden. It seems that you can't find any middle way lately. And I personally think a lot of this is caused by the way society's being changed by particularly social media, because everything we watch on YouTube and everything we watch on Facebook and Twitter and all the other platforms is always being changed and fed to us by the algorithms, isn't it? The algorithms keep picking up what we see. So if I watch a video about something, it will feed me more of the same. And if I watch a video about a particular politician, next thing I know, I'm getting those political things are being flagged up to me. So I kind of watch a lot of stuff. I try to watch both sides of arguments. So, but I notice how the algorithm keeps trying to interpret me and say, oh, you vote Republican, or you vote Democrat, or you vote Labour, or you vote Tommy Robbins, or whatever his name is, Robinson. You know, it will throw all sorts of stuff at you. And I think it's dangerous because it reinforces my my beliefs, you know, and it doesn't give me the other side of the argument. And this is happening for every single one of us, because they used to say you can't fool all the people all of the time, but you can. You can fool all the people all of the time now, because everything that we're watching is different to each of us. It's like YouTube that we're watching now is usually watched one person watching it. You don't normally sit down as a family and watch YouTube. You do sometimes because there's stuff that's Jane and I might watch together. But most of the time, what's coming up is whatever the algorithm thinks that I want to watch. So it keeps feeding me more and more stuff. And the same for all of you. And we have today, I think, a real danger because of the nature of cancel culture as well. I mean, when you look at the comments on some of the channel here on YouTube, you sometimes get people saying, I don't want to watch you anymore, Craig. Goodbye. I'm unsubscribing. Okay. And the usual reasons is because what I've said doesn't necessarily agree with what they think. They don't like a prediction that I might make because it doesn't correspond with the way they want to see the world. So you just cancel someone. And that's happening. That's one little click, but that's happening throughout everything we're watching at the moment. Because you cancelled this and cancelled that, you'll only see what you think you should see. So it breeds misconception, doesn't it? It breeds discontent. It breeds division of we're either white or black, left or right, blue or red, or whatever. You know, it divides our society, and I think that's where we're getting so many problems because none of us are seeing the middle path. All of us are being fed dangerous information because the information we're seeing is always so it corresponds with our own misconceptions, and it increases our misconceptions, and it increases our belief system rather than see the whole truth. And this is, I think, a very dangerous thing at the moment, and particularly in the politics we're getting here around the world. Here in the UK, we've had big divisions between what we call left and right, between Labour and Conservative, and also the Reform Party coming into the mix at the moment. And there's very, very few people that want to tread a middle path. In their normal lives, they tread a middle path. But throughout the whole of the media storm of things that are constantly bombarding us, we're getting division. Same thing we see in America, particularly. We see this huge division, and you're either on with us or against us. There's no in between. There's no floating voters. They're very, very few and far between. People make their mind up and stick to it. And I think it's becoming very difficult because this is getting reinforced all the time. And I see ahead quite this becoming more and more dangerous unless we can tame social media, unless we can bring the rules in. And the danger is, who decides the rules? Who decides what you should and shouldn't watch? Who decides what the algorithm should show us? And the danger is also that the algorithm is showing us things that are basically at the moment determined by what big business wants. They want your data. They don't care whether you go throwing bombs or you go picking flowers. They're just interested if they can sell you something. So we give you more of what you like. And this, I think, is the danger behind all what's happening in the world. And I think it would be quite interesting to use that perhaps as a bit of a starting point. We can talk about, issues in the world, and you can ask me anything about things that are going on in the world and what I think. And I'd love to hear what some of you think as well, both now on the Zoom that we're doing here, but also people joining the channel in the comments as well. So let's start that as a starting point. I mean, let's have a volunteer. What do you think? Do you think that am I right in highlighting that the big problem in the world at the moment, I feel, is social media, what we're watching at this present point in time? We're being fed misinformation on the mainstream press as well, and the mainstream media, but also here on YouTube and here on Twitter or X and all the rest of it, because of the nature of the algorithm. What do you find? What do you find in your when it comes into you? Okay, let's start off. I saw Valerie. Valerie, hi there. Let's
Hi.
unmute. You got to be unmuted. You're unmuted. Yeah.
Yeah, I am. Yeah. I mean, I feel politics seems to be a game that's played in front of us, but behind, like you say, is big businesses. So, like you say, we're being fed through social media opinions, but a lot of these opinions feed the big businesses, and politics just seems to be a game.
Yeah, I wouldn't. How about this for an idea too? Because one of the thoughts for way the future could go if things start carrying on like this is that we will lose. We've assumed that we all vote for whoever we want to lead our countries, right? But the barriers have broken down so much that countries are no longer not divided, what's the word, defined as normal. Our countries aren't defined anymore. Europe becomes a sort of a mishmash of lots of countries all trading with each other. I can talk to someone now in China and Singapore and so forth. I've got people from all over the world here. The barriers are broken down, which is a good thing on lots and lots of levels. But also who we vote for is broken down in the same way too, because people are now voting for the politicians are thinking about international interests, but also their personal interests, and also people being perhaps, we hear of tricks from China and Russia and other places and Iran and things where they're trying to poison it. My words are going a bit today, but I mean, they're trying to undermine everything. And could it be that in the future we don't that politics falls away completely, and instead of being taken over by people we vote for, could be controlled entirely by these big businesses? I mean, you think about it. Elon Musk is going to become the first trillionaire, huge amount of money. But what if we get multi-trillionaires, individuals running companies who, I mean, we've never thought someone could go and take a personal jaunt into outer space because they've got the money to do it. But what would happen? What would happen if multi-trillionaires started to dictate what we could do? To dictate, for example, what we can and cannot see through the media. Is they've always tried to do it, but it's perhaps happening on a bigger scale. Any thoughts about that, anybody? Yeah. Alessandra, let's hear you. You need to unmute, Alexandra. Got you. Yeah.
All right. I definitely think that this is in a way already happening. I live in Germany, just for you to understand.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. And many of our politicians are actually on the payrolls of big companies. So the ones, for example, sitting in the EU Parliament representing Germany for agriculture are on the payroll of Monsanto. So they're not going to say anything that is against Monsanto. They will put the votes the way they wanted to. And that is at least the perception of the population. And people feel that the decisions made by our politicians are extremely far away from the reality that normal people live. And this is coming through. And things are shaking up. I don't think it's going into a beautiful direction, but right now the people don't want to believe in these lies anymore. Everybody's just fed up of what we read in the press, even in the intellectual press. It's fake news from left, right, and center, what the politicians say as well. So right now, people try to bring their voices and realities across, but I think at the end of the day, where the money is they take the decisions.
Yeah, it's always been the money, hasn't it? They always say follow the money if you want to find out what's going on in the world. I mean, in the past, I mean, it was money that determined the wars that were going to happen. I mean, here in the UK, the Napoleonic War, for example, was funded by the big landowners and the aristocracy who made a fortune. Jane and I sometimes go and see stately homes here in the UK, and it's nice to look around. And you hear about the history of it. They say, "Oh, well, this was all built on profits made from the Napoleonic Wars," you know. And I think, well, this has been the case throughout history, hasn't it? Really, I mean, it's the money that determines history. And in the past, it's all been sort of, we've always kind of believed that we can somehow change this, but it's becoming very, very frightening, I think. And I think in Germany, particularly, I mean, there's a very strong, everybody calls it far right every time anybody objects to the far left views that have kind of been dominated in our politics. And I think it's very unfair, personally, to call it far right. But it's as if that we can use that phrase far right to squash any ideas, because in Germany, of course, with the memories of what happened in Germany's history, people are scared to have any view apart from what seems nowadays to be a very far left view. And surely people are beginning to feel left behind. Is that the case in Germany at the moment?
Totally. Yes. But this is why people vote for the far right, because despite the fact that we have no, well, I don't vote for them, but the people who vote for them do it out of protest because they're not being heard.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's for every topic. If you speak your own mind, you're crushed. But in the meantime, it's so many people thinking differently that this is no longer the case. This is why the politicians are suddenly now also changing, because too many people vote for the far right.
Yeah. It scares people, doesn't it? It's change scares people. I mean, we've got people from all over the world here. Is anybody from another country? Because I know it's the same thing. Doesn't seem to be happening in the East. some of you here from Singapore and things like that, did I see? I'm interested to hear what's your views, guys. Do you think is our voice being heard? And are we really hearing the truth all the time? For example, we had all the recent debates in America between Trump and Kamala Harris. And I think the world's glued to this because we know what's happening there is also what's happening in the whole Western world at the same time, isn't it? Whatever's decided there is deciding for the rest of the world. So we've all got our mind on this, because I personally feel that there's a real danger, because we've got this, what I think is a far left views of the world, which people have sometimes called woke, really. It's become what we would call woke. Now, woke is a kind of a difficult word to describe. It was originally there to sort of mean about people coming together and fairness and things like that. But it's become almost a part of that cancel culture. And it's, again, people, I remember watching on BBC recently, it was just a passing comment. I think, no, well, LBC Radio, it might have been a passing comment by, what's her name? Oh God, her name's gone now. Well, one of the commentators there, who kind of shocked me by saying, all this, we mustn't allow this type of thinking because it'll normalize people like Nigel Farage. And I think, what normalize people like Nigel Farage, as if he's so extreme, he's so far from everything that everybody believes, that we can't accept any of it. So voices are getting cancelled, and they're talking now about not allowing politicians here in the UK to be paid to talk on the media. So that means things like GB News are going to be wiped out, because those politicians like Rees-Mogg and people like that are not allowed to talk. And it's the only platform that's left that is not dominated by far left politics. Any other thoughts? Any other questions? Any other things that any of you would like to add? Give me a wave, please, guys. Yeah. Okay. Maria, is that how I pronounce it?
Yeah. Hi.
Hi there.
I've been noticing this for many years, but the manipulation of language. And I first noticed it with Michael Jackson, when so-called something good or cool became bad. And it's progressed to where the manipulation is rampant in politics and industry, so that we can be sold anything, because it's couched in language that has morphed somehow to make things that we might not have desired desirable. And also, like in testimony, for instance, the U.S. Commission on UAPs or whatever said, we don't have any direct evidence. No one questioned the word direct. That word is there for a reason. And I see this all the time in politics. So you think, oh, they don't have any evidence. Well, they do, because they use that qualifier. And all this manipulation that you've been referring to here results in distrust and anger and fear. And they use our energy of anger and fear to further the agenda. It just is like this snowball rolling down the hill, and they use that energy. So I don't know what can be done, but I'm hopeful that the future will be better in a while.
I think that's a very important observation there, actually, because whoever controls the language actually really does control the way people think. I mean, this is one of the main ideas in George Orwell's 1984, which I think has become more relevant today than ever before. I mean, we have mass surveillance. We can trace a person by facial recognition and by their phone. And if somebody wanted to know, in the government where I am now, they would easily find me within seconds, or any one of us here. They could track you down within no time at all. And we've given away also all our information all the time on this YouTubes and the rest of it. If you buy something one place, it pops up somewhere else. So we're being monitored. And also our language, like you say, is being undermined, because the whole idea in George Orwell's world was that you don't give people the tools to think. You take away, it can be good or gooder, and that's it. It can't express anything. So you take away the culture, you take away everything until people can only think in the way the party wanted. And although George Orwell seems a sort of a wild, crazy fantasy, we are seeing it happening now. And like you say, the way language is subtly manipulated, the way the hidden persuaders that we see in advertising manipulating our language, the way we're made to think in these ways that are completely outside of everything we've ever thought before, I think is really scary. And I think we're losing track of it, particularly since every word we say, every thought we have can be monitored. And this is where another danger comes on. I think it's another thing that's causing major problems, and why we're getting so many divisions in the world again, is that it's big business that are controlling pretty much everything, I think, including the politics of the world. Money is behind it. You couldn't stand for office in America, for example, without having huge amounts of money behind you, or in any other place either. And the problem is, who owns the data all the time? All this info, they know more about, Google, for example, knows more about my website and my business than I can possibly ever know. They know who comes there, where they come from, where they go, all that sort of information. And they know the same thing about each of us individually. And yet our information is pushed out there all the time for people to use and know about us. So I think one of the things we've got to do in the world, and I think one of the ways we have to save our future, is that individuals have to have control on our data. So I can say, you can use my data for this one purchase, and it knows I bought this camera, this, that, and the other, and it can suggest to me. After that, take it away. I don't want adverts on that. That data is vitally, vitally important. That is my freedom. And you take away my data, you take away my freedom. So it's really, really dangerous. Okay, a little bit more.
One more thing. If currency is taken away, there's no way to have any influence by contributing to people that you like without avoiding, the internet, Google, whatever.
Yeah.
And there is a move to do that.
And see, the danger with no currency, I mean, nobody uses cash anymore. I mean, I try to use cash, but you have to go and get the cash to use the cash. I deliberately do use cash because I feel it's got to keep cash in the society. A lot of places we go to now, I'm sorry, we don't accept cash. And I think, well, that is so dangerous, because once we get in a cashless society, as happens sometimes, could happen to any of us, if they turn off your access to cash, they turn off your access to everything. Transport, to everything. You couldn't move, you couldn't do anything without some cash. So the danger is going to be, if we have a cashless society, we could be turned off one at a time. So I think the future is dark in this respect, because we're sleepwalking into a situation where all our freedoms will be taken away. And when you ask the politicians about it, because I spotted this a long time ago and started writing letters to members of parliament, and I got some responses from it here in the UK. And the thing I understood more than anything is they hadn't, at that stage, which was some years ago now, but they hadn't the faintest idea of what's going on. They just do not recognize what a dangerous situation we're all in, because it's become seriously dangerous for us all, I think. So anybody other comments about, and this is the way the world's going, or any other topics that I think you feel that's important that we should consider here, about, how can we make the world a better place ultimately? Are our freedoms being compromised? And is there any person or organization out there that can possibly rescue us from this? I think this is why some people now sort of see almost saviors in the few people that seem to be calling out these things. I mean, Elon Musk seems to be calling out these things. I feel I have to admire him, because he is a trillionaire who could have really serious dodgy influences on the world, but he at least is warning us of the danger. This combined with artificial intelligence, which could, you know, bring this sort of big brother world, this brave new world, this awful reversal of any form of utopian world. It could this dystopia, it could create for us such huge problems. But who is there? You know, I mean, a lot of people turn to Trump because he again says he's going to shake all this up. But then we see it here. But these people get pushed out. The system is stacked against us now. And I think we're all part of it. And I think part of the problem is our data, the cashless society, the observation that is following us everywhere in our phones and CCTV cameras, and also the dangers of artificial intelligence that can manipulate and change this right down to the tiniest little detail. So I think it's a dark future for these things. And I think I personally think the way we'll get out of it is if we start, first of all, we have to demand that we have control over our own data. That first and foremost, I think, should be the world movement of the way ahead. That we cancel culture, yes, but this is the cancel. I'm canceling everything you know about me. My data can only be held on my own computer at home, on my own iPhone and so forth. And I give you permission to use it only when I want to. That would save a hell of a lot of issues like this, because it would stop them being able to monetize us all the time. It would be very destructive to these big companies. It would be YouTube and the rest would find it very hard to serve you the right ads. This program would be threatened by it and everything. But how much is our freedom worth? And only by, I think, that, and also restrictions on how much monitoring can be done from your phone to track where you are. And anything that is about facial recognition, we might catch a few criminals, but the dangers of us being able to track whoever we are everywhere by CCTV cameras, I think there needs to be something brought in on that. Those type of rules are the only way I think we can start to break this. And even then, it's, you know, it's only the start.
Do you think that this is possible to be done, is Geneviève for speaking from Switzerland? Because we already gave all our data, we already gave all our information. They all have everything. You are not even free in your own home, because with your TV, it has a camera on it, and they can see what you are doing at home. So we are a slave of all these things. We don't have our freedom. We don't have anything. I don't think we can undo all these things. The damage is so big.
Yeah, and we haven't even made a start on it, have we, Geneviève? I mean, we've not even, the thing is, we're giving it away freely every single day.
Yes, we are the one that gave them the authorization of getting there, because they could not come after us if we did not, and we say no. But we signed for everything, we gave for everything, we did everything, and they took it.
Yeah,
and
well, I mean, when we sign up for something like Facebook or YouTube or whatever, you get this great long terms and conditions,
yes,
and you get to the bottom, click the button, say yes, you know,
yes.
and it's basically, you know, we agree to give your children for medical experimentation. You know, we don't read any of it. You know,
most of the people, they don't even read it. They just agree because they want to go immediately to the next step.
That's right. Yeah, we want to see the next picture of the cat falling down the stairs. But meanwhile, we give them permission to use everything for us. And this is, I think, where we're going wrong, and that not enough people are shouting out about this, are they? Because I think it's a very dangerous future for us all if we allow these things to become to become commonplace, which they have. And like you say, Geneviève, how on earth do we reverse this? What can we do to reverse it? We're completely stuck with it, aren't we?
Because now we are battling with something that is bigger than us. We can have an association, we can have anything, but this is much bigger than that.
And of course, added to it now, I mean, we had all this manipulative stuff happening with a kind of an old, almost a hobbling along sort of algorithm compared to what we're going to get now with artificial intelligence, where it can hone everything right down to the smallest detail of your interests, you know, right down to the smallest. Sometimes things will pop up even now on adverts before you've even thought about buying it. It almost feels like it's reading your thoughts sometimes.
Yes.
Don't you get that?
Yes, but
You know?
because if you're talking at home on a TV or whatever, you are in front and you have the camera, they are getting all your conversation is there.
Yeah.
We figured it years ago that the camera, and then we read, it's like, okay, while you're at home, they can have all your conversation, listen to everything and get everything, and you don't know.
And of course, we're not going to know who we're talking to either, because I mean, you'll start to get an avatar, you'll get a Craig Hamilton Parker, and obviously that'll go everywhere because everybody loves a good handsome face put onto their screens. But you won't know if I'm real or not, or anybody's real or not, or you won't know. Obviously they're lazy, they want to do it cheaply. When you do these, go to our chatbot to ask, you know, already they're starting to put artificial intelligence in that, and that's basically an animated FAQ page, but you never actually get to talk to a real human being. And this also, another thing that's so bad about this is it creates such a lonely world, doesn't it, really? When we're constantly interacting with machines and we're never meeting people face to face. Like, I go out now on a Saturday night sometimes. So I took Jane. Jane went dancing the other night. So I took her down to the place. No, I'm not going to go dancing. She went with her friend and it was great fun for him. But it was a rare occurrence. I looked at the streets on a Saturday night and the streets were empty. They're not like, people don't go out. People don't go and meet each other. We all sit at home, and the more it's going on, it's like, it's not even television. At least the family would sit in front of the television. Now everybody just sits individually in front of their phones. So we've become, I think, so insular. And this is why people, I think, are so lonely, and why people don't find it very hard to form relationships, because how do we go and find a relationship as a young person nowadays? They go online. You don't meet people spontaneously on the streets and in the pubs and in the dance floors and wherever you would go. You know, you don't meet anybody. And I think this is a scary world ahead. And I feel there has to be a reaction to this, because it's
very, 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 especially for this generation.
Yeah.
Because I was with my son who has been 6 weeks in a hospital, and I went every day. You cannot believe how many. The hospital was fully, could not even take more people, of all these young kids from university having depression, breakdown, wanting to kill themselves, don't know what. It's just a pain to see what is happening to this generation. They will not have anything because they are always on the phone. As you say, they don't have friends. They won't get a job because AI and everything will do most of the thing. What is going to happen?
It's become a very, very scary world. It's become a very scary place. And I think mental health issues have become seriously problematic. Yeah, I'm going to bring someone else in now, because I see, Lad, you've got your hand up there. Let's bring, thank you, Genevieve. That's
You're
really
welcome.
helpful. Thank you. You better mute yourself afterwards. You'll have to unmute yourself, Lad.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, got you. Yeah. Hi there.
Okay. Siron, brother, real quick, because I've got a skylight being delivered here in a few minutes. About the U.S. elections, Martin Armstrong's computer Socrates says that we're not going to have a normal election cycle. There's going to be a lot of civil unrest. It'll be tied up in the courts. This might be the last election. What do you see for us coming up here in November? Because regardless of the outcome, neither side is going to accept the results.
No, that's going to be the case. And I think the problem is, in America, it's both money and also the manipulation of the law system, the manipulation of the media. It seems that, seeing it from the outside, seeing it as observer from, the UK or from Australia or wherever we are, you look at it and you think, how we're never going to get an answer to this. We're never going to get, nobody ever would feel that they voted for the person that they wanted. We have exactly the same problem in the UK, because we have everybody voted against the Conservative Party. So they ended up with the default, which was whoever was left, which was the Labour Party. So you got kind of a minority voted for, but with a vast mandate to change the politics. And now it's backfiring and everybody's getting upset and thinking, well, how long is he going to last? This is a terrible situation, you know. And I don't think it will settle in America, because we've got to get back to this thing about, we've got to change the very fundamentals of everything. And I think when it comes to votes, I think we need paper votes again, even though that can be compromised. But
these
danger
hackable machines that are not trustworthy.
And even if they are trustworthy, people can't believe they're trustworthy, because we know what happens with electronic stuff. We know that in one moment, all my photographs on my websites and everywhere could be deleted by one button and something new put up. I mean, everything, you know, we know that everything can be changed. We know that AI, so we have to sort of almost get back to old school stuff. Same thing, we can't even trust what's on Wikipedia nowadays, because all that gets manipulated and changed, particularly if you look at anything to do with psychic world and paranormal world. You've got the rationalists in there as a whole group of them, just changing it every minute, literally seconds within something's been changed. So we can't trust our media. We can't trust our computers. We have to start going back to old school with lots of things like reading books, for example, to get your information, and teaching your kids at school only to read books. Why should they go and look up something on Wikipedia and then ask AI to write me a composition about this? It's so lazy. You don't learn or absorb or hold anything. And we've got a mixture of bad mental health. Nobody knows about history. Nobody retains facts. We get a degrading of intelligence because AI is taking over, just like almost an intelligence calculator. And I think the division's going to continue. And we do need a major shakeup. And even Trump, I think, wouldn't be able to shake it up to the level that he needs. So he tried to do it the first time. The bar is too high. So I think people need to be thinking outside of politics, really. We need to be thinking, we want our data back.
What about completely disengaging from the beast system and just not even participating anymore? I know there are a number of self-organizing collectives that are forming their own communities and just going off grid and completely disengaging.
Yeah, a bit like Gandhi did. He said you just don't engage with evil. He'd say, you know, you just and that almost not refusing to engage in it. Now that could work if all of us, for example, refused to engage in, if we all switched off Facebook, for example. But the thing is, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because we're lazy. We're all lazy. We all want everything easy for us. I've tried it. I've tried not using Google. I've switched to DuckDuckGo, for example. But even then, you still have to keep going back to Google for certain things and the rest of it. And there again, giving my information again. So, you know, I don't think there's an answer to it. I think we're going to have a very bumpy road ahead. But again, like I said, I think something's going to happen in the future in which we're going to get a spiritual revolution. The world is ripe for it. You know, just listening to you few small example of people, ordinary people who have got issues about this. All of us are hankering for something more human. We're all hankering to be, and the mental health issues could all be solved by spirituality instantly. I mean, proper spirituality, and people coming to, you look at the incredible things that happen when spiritually minded people come together, and it brings, you know, you can build ashrams, you can build churches, you can build all the great achievements that are made by those things. People are yearning for that. So I think there's going to be a big spiritual rebirth, and part of it's going to be switching off social media, that you can only join in these spiritual things away from social media. You know, I think it will happen like that. I mean, you see it, the Let It Rot movement in China, where they took that sort of attitude. If we don't engage with things, you know, we just let it rot, you know, and that idea of let it rot could become a worldwide movement. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I'm going to take one more because I see one more with the hand up. Thank you very much, Mr. Skylight, isn't it? Because I've seen your username. Yeah, I'd recognize that. Nice to see you. Thanks for supporting the site for such a long time. Rhiannon, you better unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yep, can hear you. Yeah, yeah.
So I was actually thinking like what you just said, you know, that maybe there would be with Pluto going into Aquarius soon, which is supposed to bring the collective to a point against all that's going on, you know, people like what you said with social media. I mean, for me, myself, I'm getting more and more tired of it. It's repetitive and it doesn't make me feel good. And I think, you know, there is sort of a letting go, but I've always wondered if there will be some sort of divine intervention, like an earth event, solar flares, maybe something that would shut down things for a while and people would have to come together and help each other. And our children would learn what it is to come back together and work together and rebuild things. Do you think that will ever be something that's going to happen?
Basically what he's saying, something that will shut down the internet.
Or solar flares or attacks. And people actually said, oh my gosh, like this is what it's like to not have that, you know,
Yeah.
like at it.
Well, we were talking earlier on before we came on air here today about some of the things the NAADI had said about can the NAADI predict things for world events. And one of the things that has come up, and I don't know quite how, it didn't come up directly for me, so I'm hearing it secondhand. So this might be, I don't know, it could be scam. But there was one NAADI that is supposed to have said that there would be a meteor from outer space that would come between the moon and the earth. It didn't hit the earth, but comes between the moon and the earth. Now, something like that would be very serious and would affect and probably knock out lots of stuff for our communication systems. So it could be that something like that could happen. And also very much, I think the solar flares are, we haven't experienced any of the gigantic ones. There have been huge solar flares, I believe, during the history of the planet, which could easily wipe out all of what we've got. And the danger, it could wipe out all of human knowledge overnight, couldn't it? Because if you've had a computer go down and you've lost the hard drive and anything like that, you think, oh, all the photographs are gone, all my books have gone, all this, you know, I mean, you suddenly everything you've done in life is just wiped away because we hold it all electronically. What if it happened on a grand scale? What if all our pictures, so suddenly you find, oh God, all my photographs are on Facebook and Facebook's gone down and computers are burnt out and so on. Everything about your life is gone overnight. And you start thinking, well, what have I got? I've got some old photographs only up to 1992 or something, you know, whatever, you know, all your stuff's gone. And that would be a major event, which would probably in some ways be a breath of fresh air for the world, wouldn't it? Because we need to get back to meeting each other and good values. But that would be something traumatic, and it would probably, the internet was designed to withstand a nuclear war. That's why it was a web. It was a web, so that if you knock one bit out, it can work its way around and you've got the information stored somewhere else and you can go all the way around. The only way it could really be wiped out, I think, is if there was something that burnt out every circuit in the world, which I think is unlikely. The other way is artificial intelligence running out of control. And also quantum computing could mess it all up, because with quantum computing, every password could be cracked. So there's no security. So everything could be hacked and it would be like a world of wild hackers. So something like that could easily become the danger for the future. It wouldn't surprise me, actually. My feeling is, I think when everything gets to an extreme, something usually comes along to make it change. And I think our world of electronic world has become so insular, so lonely, so bad for human health, mental health particularly, and physical health, that I think we're all so lazy, and it's so difficult to make the changes because, you know, you might say, I'm going to switch off the television and sit there in a dark room. You're not, are you? You're going to keep watching. So we need to change it. Because if we don't make a change, usually something comes along and makes the change for us. It happens in the world at large. It happens in our individual lives too. If we don't attend to things in our life, you will get something will happen, an illness or a problem or something will give us a kick to get us back on the spiritual path. It's the nature of human existence. The nature of existence is here to bring consciousness. What we have is not helping much with our consciousness. Yes, it's helping us in things like this where we can talk and think, but most people aren't thinking. They want everything spoon-fed for them and becoming lazy and dangerous. So we're becoming a world of somnambulists, and it's a dangerous thing. And I think today we can never solve all the problems in the world, but I think it's interesting that we raised these points. And I'm going to say thank you to you all now, and say thank you for everybody that's been joining this on YouTube as well. And thanks for following the channel. And if you're watching it now afterwards on YouTube, I'm going to say to everyone, please always give us a thumbs up on the video, because it helps that blessed algorithm to get it in front of everybody. We're all algorithm dependent. Anyway, thanks guys, and I'm going to say bye for now on the YouTube channel, so see you soon. But we will of course now just continue for a few more minutes, because that was for the recorded bit, and if anybody else wants to share anything, because this part won't be on camera. So do you like what I have to say, and do you like my work? Well, why don't you support my work? Have a look in the description below to go to my website, find out about psychic readings, find out about our NAADI readings with the Indian NAADI Oracle, buy my books, and join my workshops online by Zoom. All there on the website psychics.co.uk.